He's fit. She's fit. Mr. Whitfit is fit. Are you fit? And welcome to this special episode. It's a special episode today because this is referred to as a follow-up episode. Meaning that I always like to find out how my clients are doing after I've worked with them, whether it be days, months, weeks, or even years. That being said, the gentleman I'm sitting next to today is a civil engineer. Isn't that awesome? In addition to that, when I was working with him, he went from 132 to 152, as you can see there. And now, young man is weighing 170 pounds. Put on 18 pounds all by himself, based upon the principles of the Whitfit program. That being the big three, which he's going to give you specifics of how he went about adding those additional 18 pounds while he was studying civil engineering and got his Bachelor of Science degree. That being said, James, good to see you. And go ahead and tell the audience about your civil engineering background and how you continue to train while you were in school studying for your Bachelor of Science.
Yeah, so after I finished working with Donnie, I moved up to Sacramento area for college. So while I was there, I was very busy with both academics and my part-time job. So I went to Donnie's Big Three program, which the Big Three is bench press, squat, and power cleans. So 3 workouts a week, and then you focus on one of those exercises and do the supplementary exercises with it. Those are the machines that you'll see on the gym floor in most gyms. So I kept putting on muscle while having a program that allows me to optimize my time and still put on muscle.
I love it when he says optimize his time. Because when you're in school, you really got to use your time very efficiently and effectively. And we did an episode referred to as the economy of effort. And I was referring to the Life Cycle bike as well as Cybex 700C. And I always say, when you invest in yourself, it doesn't have to necessarily be fiat currency or money that we commonly call it. Well, you can invest time in learning, whether it be in school or out of school. But when you've done what this young man has done, having increased your academic capacity, well, you're going to be respected in society at a whole different level when you tell somebody that you're a civil engineer. Often we hear people use the term invest in yourself or find the best version of you. Well, James is doing exactly just that. Not only when I first met him, he's weighing 132 pounds at 5'10", 5'10 and a half. Now, he's weighing 170 pounds. And he can walk in any place, any company, show him his degree, UC Davis. It's an asset when you're healthy and a company is looking to potentially hire you as an employee. So he's benefiting himself as well as the company at a whole different level. I love that. Why? Because what my business is about globally helping people. COVID really exposed the U.S. as a nation in terms of being an unhealthy nation. In a free society such as we live in, we should be one of the healthiest nations there is in the entire world because we have the resources for that. One of the greatest resources is your mind first. That's the reason Whitfit, the acronym, with him, it's teaching fitness in totality. And the guru, I love working with educated people because when we start to talk about universal law, such as James, I was just asking him a question about civil engineering as it relates to creating structures such as the Golden Gate Bridge. How did they know to go down how deep into the ocean when they built that structure? And very similarly, when I was working with him, I knew the amount of weight to add based upon his structure's ability to be able to handle the weight. That's referred to as periodization cycle training. Now, James, let me ask you a question. When you're building structures, such as they do in downtown San Diego, how do they know how high they can go based upon they seem to always go deep down in the ground first?
Yes. So how high you can go for buildings is solely based upon how solid the foundation is. I mean, if you're building on sand, for example, you can't build that higher. If you're building on concrete, you can build a lot higher. So based on the strength of the foundation of the material that you're building upon is how tall you can go for buildings.
Nice. That makes a lot of sense. And the reason I say it does make sense, as I said, I like really work with educated, informed people. Because one client I had, that's a friend of mine now, that currently lives in Northern California, who's Alfonso Darnell. He is studying international finance around the world. And once I was asking Al a question about differential equation. And the reason I was asking this question, as I was studying yoga, I began to understand my own structure and various asanas or postures in relation to buildings, because every human body has a similar structure in terms anatomically, how it's built. However, depending upon how you take care of your building can be a structure that needs work, foundation work, or it can be a building that's actually very specialized, such as athletes. When you start to specialize in specific sports, whether you're a sprinter, a distance runner, a football player, and football players, you can specialize by position. Running backs, DBs, these guys are not only have to be fast with muscle, they have to be able to react. So unlike, let's say, a lineman that can pack on a lot of weight because he's going to be in the trenches. So he doesn't have to worry about maybe being 7-10 pounds overweight. Whereas the defensive back, that can make a difference between him, being 2/10 or 3/10 slower, which may not sound like a lot when I say it, but when you see that in motion, that can cost you millions of dollars. Millions of dollars. So if you take this formula, you're sitting at home, your couch potato, take your height in inches, and if you want to be super lean, multiply it times 2.25. So if you're 6 feet, say 72 times 2.25. See what you get. Now, if you want to be an athletic build, take the same inches, 72 inches, and multiply it times 2.75 for more muscularity. I did that, and I did that with a lot of professional athletes to see who would fit into that formula. Marcus Allen fit into that formula, whereas Bo Jackson didn't. So you're always going to have a few exceptions. And I love what James said about structure in terms of how high you can go. For example, New York, they build those high rises there on bedrock. And they say that that's some of the best places in the entire world in order to build. So it's not by accident they have high rises there. So the key is knowing your starting point, knowing what your objective is, and how you actually want to go about accomplishing what it is that you need to do. So the Whitfit system, we're not only going to look at your structure, we're going to look at actually how you move. With the likeness and civil engineering, as James is studying, we're going to look at what your foundation's like first. So hey, if you got a big beer belly, you love watching football, maybe you can ride a bike while you watch the game. See if you can ride for 1 quarter, potentially maybe halftime. And maybe by the end of the football season, you can ride throughout the entire game. Take a break at halftime. Maybe go eat some fruit or something. Or a salad. Something not gonna, stick and be very difficult to break down, but it'll process very quickly, give you some energy. So in the second half, you're ready to go. Because in this country, America, in this city, America's finest, San Diego, we should be setting an example for the rest of the nation. No doubt. Always wishing you wealth, health. Anything you'd like to add, James?
Take care of the structure.
He's fit, she's fit. Mr. Whitfit is fit and getting fitter. How you guys doing today in this beautiful world that we live in? The reason I say beautiful world, everything all comes down to perception and perspective. That being said, I'm here with James, young man who just graduated from UC Davis in civil engineering. We're going to talk a little bit about structure as it relates to physical structure in buildings, as well as the human body. And we're going to tie in something that we spoke about in the past, which is the economy of effort and the Life Cycle Bike 6500. I'm looking forward to Life Fitness one day giving me a call and say, hey, Don, let's reproduce this bike and give the public, the American public, the American dream of being in the best shape of your life.
Yeah, so in civil engineering, whenever you see a building that's in the process of falling over or it's having some structural issues, what you got to do really is just find what specifically is causing it, like what's the weak beam or what's the weak foundation, and just somehow try to strengthen it. And I think that goes back to exercise. You got to figure out, like say for me, my upper body was always my weakest part. You know, for a lot of people it's core, for my dad it was legs. You have to find what's weak and try to strengthen it to get your all-around structure up.
He's fit, she's fit. Mr. Whitfit always stays fit. You know, today we're going to talk about something that I love talking about, is the integrity of structure as it relates to anatomical structure. Look at this beautiful lady here, Natalie Eco. Check her out on Instagram. She's gorgeous. I've known Natalie since she was 19. The beauty behind that is this. She gave me a shout out once. I was totally surprised. I got a call from a buddy of mine from Northern California. He said, hey man, some lady's talking about you on Instagram saying that you were her first trainer ever. I said, who? He says, man, pull it up. So I did. And when I did, I was so awestruck and flattered. It was like, wow, for somebody to say that you are the reason that they want to live a fitness lifestyle. You can't describe that in words in terms of how that makes you feel, especially when you're as passionate behind fitness as I am. Natalie's a sweetheart of a woman. I look forward to going to Santa Monica to visit her, spending some time with her. What's up, Natalie? We're gonna see each other in person real soon. All that being said, I'm here today with James, which is a young man that we actually helped his structure get much stronger as a result of going from 132 to 152. He made a huge investment in himself, not only in his fitness, but also in his education as it relates to academics. When I was working with him, he was preparing to become a civil engineer. Well, today he is a civil engineer. Not just a civil engineer, a civil engineer went from 132 to 170. And since we're talking about the human body and structure, I'm gonna let him explain to you about some of the things that he's actually studied in college.
Yeah, so traditionally, if a structure is weak, I mean, civil engineers will try to find exactly what's causing that, whether it's a weak foundation or a weak muscle, or in this case would be a weak supporting load or something along those lines. And traditionally we'll identify that and try to fix it. For me, the weakest part of my body has always been upper body with the chest and the arms. And Donnie's Big 3 program has helped me with that a lot.
You know, the beauty behind the Big 3 program, one of my mentors who was taught directly by Bill Starr, who was the author of the book, The Strongest Shall Survive, Cliff Block. Block, if you're out there, give me a call, man. I'd love to hear from you. 858-245-4633. Block would always say, if you water the roots, the limbs will grow. Meaning that if you shock the legs, it's going to cause the entire body to adapt to the overload, releasing testosterone, growth hormone. In the case of James, it worked phenomenally well, you know, and he's pretty much taken to the system as a fish takes to water. And being a young man at 23 years of age, you know, the sky is the limit as far as where he wants to go and what he wants to do with the knowledge that he has, because the foundation is set, you know, and it's set in stone. Anything you'd like to add, Jim?
Well, I mean, it was just a combination of that and just trying to motivate yourself to keep going in, even if you got 60 hours of work a week with both school and a part-time job in my instance. But it only really took 3 hours a week, I would say, maybe 4 or 5 if you want to go in a little more and try to get some cardio in as well. So just got to keep motivating yourself as well.
And if you lay a foundation strong, you know, I just turned 61 and I feel awesome. I know I'm getting better from here because I understand yoga. And yoga is a system that can teach you how to correct your structure, such as here in California when we have earthquakes. They got to go in, seismologists, I believe they refer to as, to see what damage has actually been done. And when I work with football players, mixed martial arts, all that kind of stuff. And I even went through rehab myself years ago when I crushed my posterior deltoid playing football. I was a banger, big time. They called me kamikaze. I mean, I hit people extra hard. That's the reason I got into yoga at 39. You know, probably one of the smartest and best things I've ever done. And we can go deep down the rabbit hole, trust me. We can get into breathing technique, how that affects your internal organisms, as well as affecting your parasympathetic nervous system. You don't have to tell your heart to beat at night, it just knows to do it. That's the parasympathetic nervous system. So as heavy and as deep as you guys want to go down the rabbit hole, your structure will stay strong for very, very long periods of time. Much like the pyramids in Giza, in different places in Egypt and so forth. Those guys were special. They were planning things based upon the laws of the universe. That's the reason those buildings are still standing. And with myself, I always refer to staying true to universal law. Whitfitgurus. With him/her, it's teaching fitness in totality. Gurus, guided under the right universal situation. Always wishing you well and health. Take care.
Okay, for example, a young guy I trained years ago in Arizona. His name was his YouTube channel called Fit Father Project. And he has his design for busy fathers. And he just Anthony Balduzzi. And he just recently added women also. And he added women for the purpose of everybody should be busy doing something.
Yeah, pretty much.
Right. But you can't make excuses. You got to make it happen. I mean, that's just the way the world works. That's why everybody loves professional sports. Because as the NFL says, not for long. Food's probably the biggest drug that people don't even recognize is a drug. Places such as, let's say McDonald's, they've already proven that they can make a protein shake in under 5 minutes when a person is going through the drive-thru. So you don't necessarily have to go and order something that's not good for you when you're going through the drive-thru in order to make it efficient. Like I mentioned in one episode, the economy of effort. Well, that applies to what you eat as well. Salads, eating things that are alive. People always refer to eating like a vegan. Well, a vegan is eating like how Noah ate. Because prior to the flood, man was not eating any meat. So anytime you want to put fancy terms on things, it doesn't change anything. So you put live things in a live organism, but that thing's going to stay alive that much longer. If you don't believe what I'm saying, put a Coca-Cola in your car and see how far you can get. Always wishing you well. Through health.